Minecraft. Minecraft. Lamu, shut up.
Huh?
Lord, go somewhere else. You know, I'm just farming these berries for no reason. Oh, I'm gonna get more if I can. I love berries. I am very high. Get it? Very high, very high. You're so funny. No, I know. PewDiePie.
No fun. We have to sort of.
I want some scary stories. Scary stories. Let me guess. With no happy ending. With no happy ending. No, what? I said no with no.
Could you see?
I'm getting set up.
Feature was falling in theaters Friday.
Oh. Is that that?
To the woman who keeps pounding on my door at night, I'm not letting you out. They found scratches on the outside of the coffin, but what really bothered them were the ones they found on the inside.
Whoa, scary.
Since that day, my doctor said that I will never again take another step. But my watch says I take 10,000 every night when I should be asleep. Now that I think about it with a new perspective, everything's fine and my problems really can be fixed, if only I hadn't jumped. My mom told me I have to get rid of my disgusting girlfriend. After all, I did kill her 3 weeks ago.
Wow, this story
Don't
is
do
so
it,
scary.
he yelled as I stood at the top of the bridge, his voice slowly fading as he falls through the air.
It's so scary.
I was wondering where my new axe had gone, and then it hit me. They said that if you beat death at a game, he won't take you. As his hollow skull tilted up from his fallen king, briefly meeting my gaze before focusing on the darkness behind me, I realized that they never said what else will. I love that crawling feeling you get down your neck when you feel like someone's behind you. It's so nice to be noticed. I frowned when I saw my daughter playing with her little brother. I thought I buried him deep enough this time. He closed his eyes and let the wind rush past his face. He didn't want to spend his last moments focusing on the ground, rushing up to meet him. It's a weird feeling, staring at your own grave. But it's even weirder when you dig it up and see what lies there. They found her dead body hanging from the ceiling. Again. My grandmother's cremation was an unsettling time for the whole family. She wouldn't stop screaming. 2 weeks ago, we sent our first faster-than-light ship out to explore the galaxy. Today it came back empty. Are you ready for leg day? Yesterday's arm day was a workout, but we've got a schedule to keep, I said to the armless man hanging from the chains in my basement. I told my psychologist I hear voices. He said, I do not have a psychologist. He came back inside covered in bite marks, a rather unusual thing to happen to an astronaut. You know how sometimes your brain plays tricks on you and you think you see something move just outside your vision from the corner of your eye? I caught one of those things today. Do not expose any part of your body to the air. I repeat, this is not a drill. As I sat staring into the mirror, all I could think was that my face didn't look right. Honestly, this man's skin doesn't fit well at all. I stumbled on things and ran into walls and tried turning on the lights, but it didn't seem to work as everything was pitch black. My wife called out, "Honey, are you okay? Why are you turning on all the lights on such a bright morning?" The monsters closed their eyes, and not a single star in the sky was seen that night. I hate walking through the graveyard at night because it's really dark. It takes me ages to find my grave again.
Oh my god, this is so boring.
The doctors discussed pulling the plug today. Why don't they hear my screaming?
You know what? Oh, never mind. These are pretty good, I don't know.
Audio recording devices have been around for well over a century now, and some
Go. Where are my headphones? If you're gonna stay here.
Audio recording devices have been around for well over a century now, and some pretty horrifying things have been captured as audio files and tapes.
Go. Where are headphones?
Before the video begins, I'd like to state a few things. This video contains some very graphic and disturbing stories coming from emergency workers such as police officers and EMTs. I ask that you please respect them in the comments, as these were very traumatic experiences for them. I hope this video helps spread awareness on how hard their jobs are. That being said, let's begin. Number 1. Okay, so I was an EMT in LA for 2 years, many moons ago. So we get a call on a DUI who hit a bunch of cars at a stoplight. All hands get called on deck. When we get there, 5 units will be there, plus 2 fire trucks, cops, and, everything else. It was absolute carnage. There were medics patching people up all over the scene, several critical transports. One EMT is treating the DUI. To say that he was blind drunk is not an exaggeration. His face was bleeding, but otherwise unharmed. This guy was in an old steel round fendered pickup truck and hit a group of cars going 50 miles per hour. Never hit the brakes. I head over to the medic who looked like he was in charge, and he immediately gave me a blue tarp. Blue tarps are not good in EMS land, and there were a bunch of them lying around covering various lumps and bumps in the street. He tells me to go cover some white thing in the street. So, what had happened was that this big blue missile had hit a Pinto driven by this Hispanic family. The back blows open, and the oldest child hurtles out of the back and 60 feet down the street and lands on his head. A human body, when thrown or dropped out with force, doesn't go boing, it goes splat. The kid's body blew apart like a bug on a windshield. Hence all the blue tarps. There were pieces all over the street. The white thing I was asked to cover up was the top third of the kid's skull. It still had tufts of hair on it. I had nightmares for years. So then we're asked to transport the parents. This was far away and the worst. Their faces were all sliced up and they were screaming in Spanish. They had just seen their child blow apart right in front of them. The floor of the unit was slick with blood by the time we got to the hospital. The whole time they're screaming. I could so they wouldn't hear me. I was heartbroken for them. They were carrying their new baby, 3 days old, in her lap, who got thrown into the windshield. Died 3 days later of cerebral hemorrhage. I Ever found out what happened to the DUI?
No. The turtles.
Number 2. A guy high on dust, aka PCP, went over to his adult sister's house right before they left for a family birthday party. As the family is packing the car up, the guy remains behind in his 7-year-old niece's bedroom, still high on dust. His niece forgets something in her room and runs back upstairs into the apartment. As soon as she reaches the apartment, she hears a gunshot. She walks into her room and sees her uncle proned out on the floor, bleeding profusely from the back of his head, brains all over her bedroom wall. Family calls 911. I show up, walk in, and assume the guy is dead by the lack of movement and loss of blood. I find the gun, make it safe, and out of nowhere hear a huge deep breath and see the guy's chest moving. With half of his brain blown apart, the guy was still alive for at least 10 minutes, but unresponsive. Medics transported him to the hospital where he died, but donated his organs. In the end, it's the little girl who will live with that picture of her uncle for the rest of her life. It would be nice if you could take every kid out of every bad situation so they have a fighting chance to live a normal life, but that's unfortunately not how it works.
Right, and we're making another world. I can't die. Holy shit.
Number 3. So, a suicidal female walks to the top of a 9-story hospital parking garage. She does a backward swan dive off the top, trying to kill herself. She ends up landing on both of her feet, which take all the impact. Every bone from her feet up to her first rib is shattered, but somehow she was still alive as I got there first. She looked like a slinky as EMTs picked her up from the ground to transport her, which, in the end, was futile. But for the few minutes I was on scene with her, I was able to speak to the woman who was still conscious.
To build a city, we need to gather wood. To raise the population, we need to grow some food. To forge the equipment, we need to mine the ores.
This is the story of our encounter with a potential killer. It was creepy in the sense that, at the time, we didn't know who we think we saw until months following. Alright, so I live in Canada for what it's worth to the viewers, and my friend and I were headed to his farm 80 kilometers north of Saskatoon to the middle of nowhere, essentially. We were on our way to Scare, his little brother and his friends who were camping the night out at the farm. The drive went great. I managed to...
What did I say? Let me lower the volume or you want to get out. Wear earbuds. Wear earbuds. Stop making music.
We finally arrive, and the first thing
you don't like nobody likes
the front gate to the dirt road that leads to the entrance is wide open, which it's always supposed to be closed and locked. Whatever. Easily could have been forgotten, so we brush it off as forgetful teenagers. We then decided that it was probably the best idea to park the truck a distance away from the cabin so that they couldn't see us sneak up on them. Well, here's where things start to get a little creepy. As my friend and I start walking towards the cabin, we see what looks like a large figure, easily 6 foot tall, and he appears to be standing still having a smoke. Well, we think it's his brother's friend, so we decide to keep watching. After about 5 minutes, we just say fuck it and keep walking. All of a sudden, the silhouette of a man looks over at us briefly and starts booking it. We're pretty pissed that our plan failed, so we just rushed to the cabin to alert everyone that we arrived. However, as we greeted everyone, we noticed all 3 of them were inside. And since all of them were inside, that means no one had been outside. Alright, so what the fuck? We swear we saw someone. A fairly large person, actually. They immediately call bullshit and think we're scaring them, but we're serious. Anyways, the night progresses, we have some drinks and stuff, you know, teenage shit, essentially, and then we decide to leave. When we're about to leave, the generator outside cuts out, which it has never done before. Me and my friend immediately get chills, but again, his brother and friends think we're bullshitting and planned this all out, which, now that I think about it, is pretty ironic. So we go outside to investigate, a large bamboo stick in my hand, and my friend is wielding a hatchet. For whatever reason, we thought being armed was appropriate, although I think it paid off. The moment we step outside, we see a guy peeking through the garage windows, which is beside the door leading into the garage. We flipped shit at him, and then we charged him with the hatchet and the stick. He immediately dropped what looked like a lockpick or something and starts running into the black night, and eventually into a thick bush and foresty area. We were all freaked the fuck out and left the farm in record time, especially because it's the middle of nowhere and the closest neighbors are a few kilometers away. So, now after all of this, fast forward 2 months, and you have a husband charged with first-degree murder of his wife. He choked her to death, stuffed her in a storm drain, and tried lighting her body on fire to dispose of any evidence. The eerie part of the story? She was found no more than 2 kilometers away on a dirt road leading to the farm, and the body was found semi-burnt and decomposing for some time, meaning it could have been there for weeks or even months. I strongly believe the guy that we saw that night was the killer husband, especially because he was breaking into the garage where they kept gas and diesel, and because the generator ran out of gas randomly that same night. Makes me really think what would have happened had we not gone out there that night. Could 3 young teens have been murdered also? It could all be a coincidence too, but I strongly disagree with that.
Yeah, I'm just put this on. Alright, there we go, some fake.
Anyways, it just goes to show that even when you're in remote areas, danger always seems to follow. When I was a boy, my parents used to take me and my older sister to my relative's house in eastern Kentucky, right around Letcher County. The closest city is Whitesburg. My uncle, who taught me everything I know about the outdoors, lived in a cabin nestled in a holler way back up in the mountains. His place was at the base of a big strip mine seam up on the mountainside. As a young boy, he and I used to sit out on his back porch at night and use predator calls to try and call something down out of the hills. Well, one night, he and I were out using one of his tapes. We'd been out there for a good 2 hours and had seen nothing, so we were thinking of calling it a night. We were about to pack everything up when he realized his squirrel feeder.
Don't worry about finding me. I'll find you. Angel Has Fallen in theaters Friday.
Boom, boom, boom.
Monuments of an ancient warrior caste. For generations you've slept.
If the wording seems a bit off, it's because the story has been translated. I was called in for a night shift on Saturday at the gas station that I used to work at. I'm 19 years old and a guy. I'm pretty short, like 5'6", but I weigh around 190 pounds. Because my lifestyle almost only aims for both powerlifting and bodybuilding, depending on which time of the year it is, I got really mad that I got that shift because I need a good night's sleep. But whatever,
Hello?
I needed money anyway. I shaved my head clean like I do every second day while keeping my full beard and packed 3 decent meals for the shift. I went to work at 11 p.m. and the shift was going to last until 8 a.m. whilst being alone until 6 a.m. I don't mind working alone. Some people get paranoid and everything, but I myself have the kind of facial features and build that most people would not bother to mess with. Even though I'm a very, very nice person, it doesn't really look like I am. I had some customers while working, of course. A lot of drunk people. Since it's Saturday, and in Norway, people tend to grab a burger or a hot dog at the gas station before heading home. Others just there to fill up on gas. But later, at around 4 a.m., when it started to get more and more quiet, I saw a stressed out woman a few steps away from the door outside. I couldn't exactly tell what she looked like from behind the cashier desk, but I could tell that she was stressed out, standing with her arms crossed together while turning her head to the sides and turning around every now and then. I was considering to go out and ask if she needs any help, but I brushed it off and was thinking she was probably just waiting for someone. But then she looked inside and began to walk towards the entrance. She came inside, breathing in between normal and heavy, and she sat down. I greeted her with a smile, and I could tell immediately that she was a drug abuser, and that she was really stressed out. She was dressed with normal-looking clothes and looked like she was in her 20s. She kindly responded with, "Hey," with an obvious fake smile where you could tell that this person is sad behind the mask that they're putting on. She then came to the desk, asking if she could borrow my phone to call her boyfriend. She said that there were people following her and that they wanted her hurt or dead. The following conversation goes on like this. "Are they looking for you? Like right now?"
Yes. Please let me borrow your phone.
"Sure thing, but wouldn't it be better if I called the cops for you?"
No, please. All I need is to borrow your phone for a quick call.
Long story short, I told her to go sit down at a specific corner of the station where there was no glass wall so that people wouldn't be able to see her. She called her boyfriend 2 or 3 times, but nobody responded. She kindly asked me if she could log into Facebook with my phone, to see if maybe she could contact him there. I was kind of unsure about this, but I am, by natural reasons, very humble, maybe a little too much. Another thing was that I was standing right behind her, so there was no unacceptable things that she could do without me seeing it. So I said, "Alright, you can log into your Facebook." I told her to use the Google Chrome app to go on Facebook and not the Facebook app itself, since I hate spending time logging in and out of my account on my phone. Call me a lazy bastard, whatever. She logged in, and long story short, no response on there either. She thanked me a lot for the help and was about to walk out. I asked her if she was sure about me calling the cops or not, but she was 100% positive about me not doing it, which was weird, I thought. "Okay, well, be safe," I told her. Later on into my shift, I turned my phone on only to find out that she forgot to log out from her Facebook on the Google Chrome app. Out of curiosity, I checked the messages, which I believe every other person would probably consider doing. The most recent conversation was obviously her boyfriend, I thought. But there was nothing about "come and pick me up" or even the slightest thing that made me believe that this was her boyfriend. I checked the others below. Every fucking conversation I checked, which was about 6 or 7 of them, was either about drugs or money. Meth, coke, heroin, codeine, you name it. As humble as I am, I just felt bad for her, and I logged out without judging. 2 days later, I'm at the gym doing some deadlifts when I get a call from a number that is not registered in my contacts. I picked up. "Hello, Alan speaking." "Hello, who are you?" "Who am I? You called me, and I've already said my name. Who are you?" "You called me 2 days ago in the middle of the night." "No, I didn't." And then I remembered about the girl calling her boyfriend at the gas station 2 days ago. "Oh wait, I remember. I don't know her name, but I assume you have a girlfriend?" Then I went on to explain the situation. You may think, how the hell didn't I know her name when I had her Facebook logged into my Chrome app, but I simply didn't bother to remember it. He then responded that he didn't have a girlfriend. Surprisingly, this didn't shock me at all. I could tell that she was full of shit when I saw the messages with my own eyes. But I pretended like this was something that came to me as a surprise. "Oh, really? Well, that's what she told me, and I tried to help her out after that, which I've already explained to you." "What do you know?" "What do you mean, what do I know?" "Has she told you anything? If so, I need to know right now." I was really starting to get pissed off. First of all, I was being mixed into some bullshit for no reason now. Second, getting interrupted during my workouts makes me want to rip off someone's head. "She hasn't told me anything, and I'm really busy at the moment. Please don't call me again, because none of this is actually my business." "It is your business. You helped her, you piece of shit." Before I hung up, I told him to fuck off, otherwise I would take this case to a level that he would regret. I mean, obviously I would never kill him or anything, I just tried to come up with some dumb shit to scare him. I got a bit frustrated too. Why the actual fuck would that girl call a psycho who obviously didn't like her? It was clear that he was mad because he thought I somehow helped her, which I still don't understand what he meant by that.
Lower the volume!
So, on to the rest of the story.
Holy
my neighborhood is quiet, and my town is small, so
well, it's not my fault you can't go somewhere else.
Anyone. It's as simple as pasting someone's phone number in a specific website and their address will most likely show up. And eventually, I happened to get a little visit. As I said, the neighborhood is very quiet after midnight, and while being in bed, watching some bodybuilding videos for entertainment, I started to hear someone driving towards my area. Well, that's not normal at this time, but it happens. Eventually, I heard a car park right outside my property, behind my garden, which goes a little bit uphill, filled with stones and flowers. So I couldn't see the car from that point on, but I heard someone opening the car door and locking it. What the fuck was going on? I quickly grabbed my tank top and shorts. After that, I would just be silent, trying to listen for every sound that I could get. I opened my window quietly, just to be able to hear a little bit more. I could hear the man walk up the little uphill part of my garden, which made some sounds because of the stones. I won't lie, I was scared as shit. I couldn't see him either, because everything behind my garden is blocked from my point of view by tall cements for the garage. The garden uphill leads to the balcony where a big glass wall is, and that's
Story
where my
time,
little
story time,
sister's
story
room
time.
is. I went to the exit of my
Your
door
third
and
story
quietly
time, right?
walked out. I walked to the cement stairs at the
How
side
many
of my
story times are you
property,
gonna
which
do?
leads me to the exact same spot as him. I could hear footsteps, and I quietly walked up the cement stairs. Then I caught a glimpse of the guy. Probably the guy I was speaking on the phone with. Keep in mind, I still don't know what the hell he wants from me and why the fuck that junkie woman called him in the first place at the gas station. I know nothing. My adrenaline was high, but got almost to its peak when he was right outside my little sister's glass wall. I was scared, but also really pissed off. No way he's going in there, or trying at all. At the top of the cement stairs, I walked quick but silent, until I saw that he could hear someone walk behind him just a few feet away. Then, I ran as fast as I could and pushed him with all my anger, leading him to get smashed into the wall beside my sister's glass wall, before I proceeded to get over him and hold my palm over the side of his face, pushing it down while asking what the fuck he wants. My little sister woke up screaming, which also woke my mother up. She ran out and asked what the hell was going on. Dad isn't home is another story, but anyways, my family's facial expression was filled up with fear, and I told my mom to call the cops. The man said nothing, just laying still with his left because of the pressure I was holding his face down with, while my left hand was holding him down between his biceps and shoulders. He was literally resting for a few seconds before starting to resist like a horse again, but he ran out of energy fast. I would ease my off his face so that he could get his head up a little bit, only to smash it down again with anger. Both he and I were breathing heavily. I stopped asking questions, and my mother was on the phone with the police, always reacting with fear when the man started to resist again, but I told her it was under control. It didn't take long before the cops showed up and arrested the guy. I told them the whole story about both the girl and the guy. They were both just regular fucking drug addicts and had both been in prison previously for it. I was scared as shit, and still to this day don't know why I had to be involved in this. Maybe he was just a paranoid psychopath. My lesson to you, never let some creepy stranger borrow your personal phone for situations like this. If it sounds dangerous, simply call the police to help them, and if they don't want you to, then just leave it. If you're at work, like I was, use the work phone.
Lower the volume! Or where are my earbuds? Or go
I
somewhere else.
working a graveyard shift
Go
at a
somewhere
grocery store in a big city on the west coast.
Oh my god.
We were sat in the middle of a residential
Minecraft.
area, and we had at least one cashier on the floor at all times. The other cashier I worked with every night was named Barry. Barry was an old man who used to live in Chicago. I didn't learn a whole lot about him
very
while I
old.
worked with him, as he was pretty secretive about everything. He was a nice guy, though. He was the perfect example of a grumpy old man. You know, the kind that would yell, "Get off my lawn," and was absolutely fearless. They had a third-party security guard, and I use the word security loosely since it would be illegal for him to actually apprehend anyone. His job was to patrol the aisles in an effort to ward off thieves. On this particular evening, as I started my shift, I'd noticed a gentleman in nothing but dirty sweats lounging at our outdoor furniture display up at the front. It was a couple yards from my station. I just ignored him and did my job since it took more brain power than I could actually spare, and it was the busiest time of the day for us. He stayed there for a good while until our security walked up to start a conversation, and he got scared and left pretty quickly. Fairly soon after, Barry approached me and told me that the guy was a local vagrant and that if he comes back that I should let him know because he had a history of harassing customers, especially Seeing as I'm a very short girl with, at the time, very little strength, I told him I would let him know and went back to scanning items. Hours passed by, and when I returned to my station, I see him at the display again. Immediately, I called back to Barry and let him know what's going on. I'd never seen someone get from the back of the store to the front in such a short amount of time. Right behind him is the security guy. The store is pretty much empty at this point, except for maybe 2 or 3 lonely shoppers getting their 2 a.m. fix of chocolate, mac and cheese, or other comfort food. I can hear the man start to get a little bit angry, slowly building up his yelling until he startles me, and I turn around to watch what's going on. Hand on the phone to call the police if I need to. The man stands up and he's really tall, like really tall compared to all 3 of us. We all hovered around the low 5 foot and he shoves Barry back. Barry went to move forward and the guy pulls out a long knife that he must have taken from our minuscule aisle of kitchenwares, yelling about how he needs a place to sleep, and he swings at Barry, who dodged it. Security hightailed it back at that point and I called the police. In the meantime, it was just us 3 and this crazy hobo with a knife in an intent to hurt someone. Barry gave a face and kept his attention while I talked to dispatch. It would take them 5 minutes to get to the store. Barry tried his best to talk the man out of his frenzy, and for a while it seemed like it was working. Then the guy started advancing with a white-knuckle grip on the knife. Barry stood his ground for the most part, but the man caught up too quick and swung again. Barry tripped, and I thought for sure that was it. I was going to watch someone get stabbed, and there wasn't anything I could do about it. Apparently, I had made some sort of noise because he turned back and made eye contact with me. I couldn't read his face. My mind was just blank. The security guy decided now was his time to shine, and he yelled something. I can't even remember what he yelled. Probably something about the police. The man bolted, and I watched through the storefront windows as he ran around the building and disappeared into the dark. The police eventually arrived and searched for him. They caught him, I heard, and he was sent to prison for aggravated assault, I believe. Barry was grumbling louder than usual, his way of expressing shock, I suppose, and we both finished our shifts before going home. That wasn't the last time I ever witnessed scuffles between Barry and aggravated people, but it was the only time they ever had a weapon. This story takes place only about 9 months ago or so, and it still works me up to this day. I've worked at GameStop for about 4 years, and in multiple places, some sketchier than others. I'm a key holder there, and I often close the store, so I'm normally out around 10 p.m. The last 2 years, I've been at a rather nice in a better area, so I had discarded my habit that I had accumulated over the years for my own safety. I'm about 5'3" and pretty small. I'm aware that I'm a target for, well, nothing good. Anyway, it was about 10 p.m. and I had just closed with another employee. I don't have a car, so I had to wait for my ride, which was not out of the ordinary. She was running a little more late than usual, however. Whoever I close with always offers to wait with me until my ride shows up, but I always assure them that they can leave and that it's fine. The GameStop I work at is in a decent-sized strip mall plaza with many other stores, including a Walmart that's a little more than a quarter-mile up the parking lots. Most of the stores closed a little sooner than us, so we were typically the last ones out anyway. The associate I closed with walked across the lot and got into his car, waited about 5 minutes, and then left and waved his way by me. As he did, I noticed another car further back in the lot. It was the only car left, and I had just assumed it was someone else getting out a little late from their job. My eyes followed the associate's car all the way to the end of the plaza until he's gone. I check my phone and my batteries are low, but I can see that it's about 10:10. I was sure my ride would be here any minute. That's when I saw the other car start to move. They must have been sitting there because no one had walked to the car since I had left my store. They didn't turn their headlights on, which was odd to me, and started the gut-wrenching feeling that it was a little weird and that I should leave. But, for whatever reason, I stayed. The car drives around the lot and then slows down. near me. At this point, I have my phone out just in case, and I have my messenger bag on my shoulder. It fast. He pulls up about 15 feet from me, just outside of the first handicap spot. The car stops and is still running. It's an old, gross, beat up mess all over it. Opens and no lights come on. Out steps a very large, was likely about 6'2". He had brown, messy hair and was brolic, but still lanky. His clothes were stained with sweat or grease, and he looked very unwelcoming. He had casually gotten out of the car, but then he turns around and clicks his fucking front seat upward, and immediately, with the door open, starts walking fast toward me. I hadn't even realized it, but I was already on my feet, backing away from him. He kept contact and made a gesture to come back. Basically, from there, I turned around and booked it to the Walmart parking lot. The sketchy guy got into his car and pulled around and started driving toward me. I don't know him. The store had been closed for over an hour, and it's dark, and the lot is empty. There is no reason to be approached like this. He still had his headlights off, which absolutely terrifies me, because I can hear him, but it's still very dark and my heart is pounding in my ears. I can't tell if he's right behind me or if he's leaving. I peek back and he's still slowly driving toward me. At this point, I'm certain I'm about to be shoved into a car and sold into human trafficking or some bullshit, and I'm in absolute panic, but all I can do is run. The Walmart was still so far away, and I was sure he would probably try to actually make an effort to get me in the car by then. I felt like he drove slowly behind me to tease me and scare me. But then I saw a big truck in the very back of the Walmart parking lot with about 5 people around it. There was another car, and their hoods were up. Someone was jump-starting a car. I hauled ass to the left in their direction since they were closer, and as soon as I felt like I was in earshot, I started screaming for them to help and that a car was chasing me. The group looked shocked, and for all I know they could have been sketchy too, but I had to take that chance. A man and a woman ran towards me and met up with me.
I think I broke his head. Look at his head. He's
He's
looking up.
shaken up.
No.
I could hardly talk, but
Oh, no,
I
I
looked
didn't.
back and saw the taillights of the car driving away. I walked towards the rest of the group, which was just a few people attempting to jump another car. I told them that a big guy was following me and that I felt very unsafe. They offered to call the cops, but I wasn't even able to see his plates, and I really just wanted to be home at that time. The 2 women of the group and 1 man were kind enough to walk me into the Walmart and even waited with me for my ride to arrive. I thanked them and went home. After that happened, I requested to open for about a week so I wouldn't be at the store after dark. The next day, I told my boss the time that it happened and we both watched the DVR in the back. It was incredibly uncomfortable to watch, but we forwarded it to the local police. The police didn't end up finding much, but they now keep a squad car patrolling the plaza from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. I don't take chances anymore. I wait inside the store until my ride calls me and I can see them. The whole thing really bothers me. I always felt like that type of thing only happened in the city or in unsafe places, but not to me, not here. I haven't discussed it much since, but it still bothers me. You're really never safe. In 2008, I worked at a retail clothing store with my girlfriend, Chelsea. We were both 18 years old, and we tried to work as many shifts together as possible to maximize our time together because she was still in school. My grandfather had recently purchased a Dodge Sprinter van for his
Lower the
business.
volume!
My car was being serviced overnight, so I got to drive the van. Chelsea and I loved the nights we got to take the van. Because it usually had the back seats installed and the tinted windows meant we could have some privacy, which is great for teens who still live at home. That night, we only had 1 row of seats in the back, just behind the driver and passenger. Chelsea and I parked near each other like we always did and worked our evening shift, closing the store with a few of our co-workers. We all leave together and I help the manager lock up because the glass doors need to be aligned properly for the lockdown gauge. It's early March in Pennsylvania and it's still very cold outside, so Chelsea usually starts her car to warm it up and then sits with me as my car warms up.
Take my
When
ball
I get to the
downstairs and
vehicles,
my
her
cup.
car is idling and she's already in the van.
Okay, I'm talking
I
more
don't even
about.
realize that I still have the keys.
I have
Never unlocked the
I have
door.
evidence on my
She
recording
sits
that
with
you were
me,
using your
chatting
iPad.
for a while. She then sits on my
Okay.
lap and we kiss in the front seats, but we decide it's too late and too cold to have a little fun in the back.
Delete the what?
Every night we drive home separately from
You
work
can't
while
delete it from
talking on the
anywhere.
phone.
I could.
She
What, in
usually
this
gets
video?
home first, and I stay
You can't,
on
it's
the
on
line while she
YouTube.
walks up her long driveway
In my
in the
video.
dark. That night,
I'm live right now. It's once I finish, I can go on YouTube and I can show Mama.
So when I'm close to home, I tell her that I'll call
What
her
is
in
this?
a little bit. She asked me to stay on the line because she's almost home and she doesn't like
I'm not
walking
telling you.
past the dark bushes next to the driveway.
Minecraft 4
I
life.
stay on the phone and fumble with all of my things I'm carrying out of the van. I know I locked and armed the van because as I was using the key fob to lock the vehicle, I dropped things, struggling to keep the phone to my ear. The motion lights have illuminated the whole area, so I'm able to see everything that I dropped. We both make it inside safely, and we also decide not to stay on the phone because she had school in the morning. I begin to doze off almost immediately in my bedroom. I lived with my grandparents, who built a house to accommodate for my grandfather's aging parents suffering from Alzheimer's, my great-grandparents, so that they didn't have to go into a home. The driveway runs parallel to a daylight basement that has 2 garage doors, an entrance door, and the French doors to my bedroom. I'm falling asleep as all of the motion lights finally turn off and now my room is completely dark. It wasn't even 20 minutes later when I'm jarred awake by the alarm sirens of the van. All of the motion lights are on and the flashing lights of the van's alarm are filling my room. I left the key fob upstairs in the main part of the house, so I run upstairs to silence the alarm. In the kitchen, as I'm grabbing the fob, my grandfather in his boxers, my great-grandmother in her nightgown, and I in my boxer briefs all meet in the dark. My grandfather grunts as he sees me grabbing the fob, but what my granny said sent shivers down my spine. She basically asked why the hell I was running around outside at this time of night. I wasn't outside. I explained that I was sleeping and she insisted that I was outside making the van alarm. My great-grandparents' bedroom sits above the garage doors looking down over the driveway and the van. I'm assuming she's confused. She has Alzheimer's after all. The goosebumps from her exclamation prompted me to grab a knife from the butcher block anyway, and my grandfather followed with a baseball bat. We both walk outside warily, in our boxers, in the cold but highly illuminated and loud dead of night. The van is still going crazy. The interior lights are all flashing, and I remember that specifically because I'd never seen a car alarm do that. We silence the alarm and start looking around. My grandfather says he thinks a deer may have run out of the woods in the dark and hit the van. I don't say anything as we investigate. When I reach the back of the van, I notice the door is wide open. That explains the alarm. The van has a feature that if the vehicle alarm is armed and a door is open somehow from inside or outside, it alarms. But how? I locked it and armed it, hence the blaring alarm. That's when I realized the door was opened from the inside. My blood ran cold. The door is open, so the inside lights are still on. I see the empty space behind the row of seats, and there are wadded napkins and a chip bag. They weren't ours. Someone was in the van with me the entire time. I must have left the van unlocked by mistake when I went into work, and that's how Chelsea was able to get into the van without the keys at the end of the night. Was it a homeless person escaping the cold, or someone with a more sinister intent? What if I had gotten off the phone like I wanted to. If they had bad intentions, the fact that I was on the phone might have saved my life, because Chelsea would have raised hell if she heard me being attacked. I get chills every time I think about it. We didn't call the police because my grandfather was skeptical of my conclusion, but my gut tells me that I didn't drive home alone that night. When I was 11, my family of 6 decided to make the move from suburbia to a lovely rural bungalow. I have 3 sisters, aged 9, 12, and 18 at the time. We were all excited for the privacy and isolation of our new home. For once in our lives, we would have no neighbors and a large yard to play in. Our home had large picture windows giving us a beautiful view of the farmland around us. My parents disliked curtains because there were no neighbors
give me an iron.
So we all figured, what's the point?
I want iron and diamonds.
The summer was so much fun there. Every morning I would get up and take my dog for a walk around the woods in our backyard. I absolutely adored the feeling of being alone and was enjoying the freedom of all of our new space. Fall eventually rolled around and I continued my routine of walking my dog both in the morning and after school. I remember one morning while walking my dog I began to feel uncomfortable. I was alone in the woods, there was no one around, but I still felt as though I was being watched. I had shivers down my back the entire walk, and for an 11-year-old, I just felt really strange. My dog was acting weird too. I kept trying to go farther into the woods, but she kept trying to pull me towards our shed. The shed rested at the very back of our yard, on the edge of the woods, where the trees thin out quite a bit. I didn't like how I was feeling, so I took my dog and brought her back to the house and went on with my day. Days went by and I just couldn't seem to shake this feeling of being watched, especially when I was in my bedroom, which had a huge window in it that overlooked our backyard. The view of the woods that I had previously loved was beginning to scare me. I assumed it was just because it was fall and the forest started looking kind of gloomy, I guess. I started having nightmares about waking up in the middle of the night and seeing the figure of a man in our backyard. Weird things kept happening around our house. We all suddenly noticed that we were eating things like bread a lot quicker